Hi, I'm Michael Varacins. Been racing with SCCA since about 1993. I grew up at the racetrack. My dad was racing cars since before I was born. Won 7 national championships at the runoffs in Formula V. In 2019, I switched to Formula Continental, just looking for new challenges. And there's a few things that I've kind of learned over the years for trying to find that last second, which is where we're at right now on the Continental. One of the things that I found that helps when you're trying to find that last second on the track is really good note taking. I have a notebook that I take with me, record all the pertinent data, not only setup data, but also information about the track and weather conditions on that particular day. I find it easier just to keep everything in a handwritten notebook, because then you can make last minute changes as you're working on the car. You can just jot stuff down. But at the end of the day, you have to find a way to capture all that information, because when you come back to a track 6 months later, the following year, you really want to be able to know where you start from. You don't want to have to be starting from scratch. So you come back, you can look at what your lap times were last year, where you qualified, and really have a good ballpark of what you can expect when you get there that coming week. Another thing that I found very helpful is making good use of the data acquisition systems. Most cars these days have some type of data acquisition system in them. If you've got even some of the basic sensors, you can gather a lot of information out of it. When you start looking for those last tenths of a second or even a full second, what you can gain out of those systems is invaluable. And I can't recommend it enough that you spend time with a data system. So another thing that's helped me over the years is just being very scientific and methodical in how you approach things. Racing is very math and science based and physics based. A good example was at the Daytona runoffs in 2015. Came out in the bus stop in 3rd place. The leader at the time, Charlie Hearn, great Formula V guy, great racer, loved racing with him. He went straight up to the top. And in my head, that split second, I replayed the number, and I remember thinking, well, that's an extra 200 feet he has to go. I stayed down low, stayed right along the white line, and I ended up winning that thing. And had I not done that math in my head the night before, I might have followed him up to the top and the whole thing would have played out differently. Formula V, you were very limited in the changes you can make on the car, so I kind of got in the habit of just getting in and driving what we had, and you adapted to what the car was doing. In the Continental, there's much more adjustments you have, and so part of the challenge now is actually trying to figure out what the car wants and how to make it better. And you end up having to reserve a little bit of mental capacity while you're on the track to figure out what's happening. And then when you come in, you got to do a download, even if it's with yourself or if you have an engineer you're working with. As soon as you come in, replay some stuff in your head and try to replay what the car is doing compared to what you want it to do, and then you can figure out how to change it and make it better. Finally, one of the biggest things I found when you're starting to looking for that last little bit of on-track performance is physical fitness. The biggest thing is the high G loads that we see in the cars. The blood doesn't flow very well, so the heart's working hard, heart rate's really high. You're in a very mentally taxing environment, a very hot environment, so it's just incredibly stressful. And the higher your fitness level, the less likely you are to make mistakes. So physical fitness can't be neglected if you expect to do well in the sport. This stuff can be applied basically to every class that's out there in SCCA, whether it's a spec racer Ford or a big GT1 car, all of it applies. When you start looking for that last second, you got to start looking at the fine details.